Can we talk about how boring motorcycles are, please? Right, so motorbikes. In general, they're exceptionally good fun, contrary to what I just said at the start of this video. So in general, bikes, all of them, doesn't matter which ones they are, they're all a good laugh. They've all got a purpose, they've all got a place in the, shall we say, club of riders? Shall we call it a club? Every single bike has its place and its purpose and its use, and I understand that not everyone is the same, and every single bike needs to do a different job for a different person, depending on what they find enjoyment out of. So like adventure bikes, for example. People that like to go off-roading and green laning and ripping down a fire road. I understand those. Then you've got your sports bikes, your hardcore sports bikes, people that want to do track days. Then you've got your nakeds, people like me that like to rip about on something that's a bit more comfortable than a sports bike but has many of the same facets and natures of a sports bike. There is something in the world of bikes for everybody. But modern bikes, new modern bikes, are just becoming so homogenous. Every single bike that comes out from the leading manufacturers is just becoming so the same, and I'm finding it a little bit uninspiring, and I think it's leading to the motorcycle industry suffering because of it all. Now, I understand the reason why it's happening. I understand why that's going on, but it's all down to Euro 5 compliance and nature of the Euro 5 emission standards and noise standards and all that sort of stuff. They're all having a detrimental impact on what manufacturers can do. So they're all having to comply by these tighter and tighter emissions laws, these tighter and tighter, noise level laws, a whole raft of stuff that's absolutely strangling, should we say, the motorbike industry. And then on top of that, we've got cosy lives, mate, the cost of livings. So people finding it more and more difficult to buy high-end luxury items and get into biking, and the cost of that entry, meaning that manufacturers have got less and less money to throw around on research and development. So what's happening is this perfect storm of less bikes are being sold, so manufacturers have less money to do research and development, and as a result they put all their money into one basket and they learn how to make one engine that is Euro 5 compliant, that meets all these stringent rules, and then they shoehorn it into every bloody bike that they can manufacture. And it just so happens that 90% of the manufacturers have all landed on the same formula. Yamaha with their CP2 engine, that 700cc CP2 parallel twin, and it's in the R7, the MT-07, the Tracer 7, the Tenere 7. It's in all of those 700cc bikes. And then you look at Aprilia, and we're going to go see an Aprilia now. Actually, I'm going to A&D Motorcycles to have a look at this new Touareg 660 because there's a bike night on, and I thought I'm going to go and check that bike out whilst I'm out and about. But anyway, I digress. Aprilia have fallen victim of it as well. So we've now got the RS 660, which is a fantastic sports bike, and then they strip some fairings off it. Exactly the same bike, strip some fairings off it and turn it into the what's it called? Tuono 660. And now, in the last 12 months or so, they've released the Touareg 660, which is just the same bike with some massive suspension. And then another culprit of this, and I think these are probably the worst, is Suzuki. They developed their new engine, and they've shoehorned it into their new, GSX 8TT. It's a new bike apparently, the GSX 8TT, and then they've got the GSX 8T, which is the same bike with different fairings, and then they've got the GSX 8R, which is the same bike with different fairings, and then they've got the GSX 8S, which is the same bike with different fairings. So 4 bikes, all the same, just all in a different frock. And I don't get excited by any of them because they're just so homogenous. As I said, they're just so homogenous. Triumph is another one. Although they're slightly on the edge, Triumph I kind of have a little bit of love and respect for because they haven't gone down the road of the parallel twin. They have developed the triple. But again, it's a 660cc triple, and it's in their 660 Daytona and their 660 Trident. and their 660 Tiger. So it's the same bike again, just with all these different suspension layouts and fairing setups and stuff. So yes, I'm finding modern bikes to be a little bit bland and boring, and I know why. Like I say, it's a Euro 5 compliant stuff, but I think that itself is what's feeding into the bike industry over the last few years struggling. And if you need evidence that the bike industry is struggling, you don't really need to look too far. You just have to look online, and I've done some research into it. I believe CCM went into administration because of dwindling sales and just the economy in general being quite difficult to turn a profit in. And then where I live around here, we used to have a company called Completely Motorcycles. They went into administration, they closed down. Fortunately, they were saved by Bill Smiths in Chester. Well, some of the dealerships were anyway, some of them got sold off to other people. But yeah, as an industry, it is struggling and finding it difficult to keep its head above water. And I think the reason for that is, as I've mentioned, this Euro 5 compliance stuff, making it very difficult for bike manufacturers to stand out and make a name for themselves and do something exciting. We'll pick this up when I leave. That was fun. Yeah, so as I was saying, I know it sounds unusual for me to be ranting about new bikes or being a bit homogenous and then going to a new bike dealership, A&D Motorcycles, and then going on a ride out. Like, those guys are the ones that are suffering as a result of this Euro 5 compliance stuff, and they're the ones that are struggling with the fact that these bikes are becoming more and more the same, and that the market itself is struggling with new bike registrations. And I say all that though, but it's not all doom and gloom. The bike market isn't that unbuoyant. That unbuoyant, is that the right term to use? So if you are in the market for a small bike, that segment of the market seems to be absolutely booming. Loads and loads of 125s and 50cc's and small capacities like 300cc bikes seem to be getting registered. The exhaust on this. Yeah, like small capacity 300cc's, 125s, that sort of stuff seems to be flying out. Now, I guess that is probably to do with, as I mentioned earlier, cosy lives. People looking for a cheaper alternative to transport because, well, bikes are cheaper to buy and run and maintain and look after, especially little 125s and stuff. They do like insane MPG, like 100 odd, 80 odd to 100 odd MPG. They cost like 30, 40 quid a year, some sort of £20 a year to tax. Insurance on my first 125 with just my CVT license was sub £300. Like, they are brilliant if you're trying to commute. And that's another thing as well, like commuting. I think the City of London put some stats out and were like, commuters who operate on bikes are saving about 33% of their travel time. So they're doing it a third faster because they're able to filter here in the UK. We can cut through traffic and go down the centre of lanes in traffic jams. So there are a lot of benefits to biking, but it seems to be the smaller community of bikers that's surviving. And also, on that note, we're seeing an uplift year on year of people doing their Module 1, Module 2 tests and getting their full A category licenses. But as a result of that, we're still not seeing the uplift in people buying new bikes. And I think it's because they're just not that exciting. They're just not getting people hyped enough. Obviously, the superbike segment and stuff, your top end things, they really are. You know, your Ducati V2, Panigales, your V4, Aprilia RS, that sort of stuff. People are getting jazzed and hyped and excited for that, but they are mega money. Like, you are properly committing to getting yourself out on two wheels if you buy a bike like that. So it's the people that are in the middle segment, those that are in the centre segment of biking, that are struggling to find bikes that are exciting. And whilst I'm going to go on in a bit of a a tangent there, but what I was saying was we are seeing more people doing their license, more people going out and getting that bike license, but less people buying new bikes and more people going out and buying used. I think the statistics currently, the ones I've seen, state that we've got more bikes currently registered here in the UK year on year. Since 2020, that number has been climbing steadily. So we're getting more and more bikes out on the road, taxed, insured, MOT'd, licensed, but less new bikes out there getting licensed. And I think that is because people are seeing that for not a lot of money, for example, I spent $6,995 on this. I got myself a Ducati rather than $8,000 for a Suzuki. And you can go out there and get yourself something like an inline 4 with a real screamer of an engine, like a CBR 600RR, for example, over the new parallel twin CBR, whatever that might be. So there's bikes with more character, better sounding engines, a bit more about them available on the used market than there are on the new market. Now, as I was saying before I arrived at A&E Motorcycles, I got sidetracked and turned the camera off. There are a few outliers still out there manufacturing. Honda is one of them. Honda's CBR 650R and the CB 650R, the naked version, they are inline 4s, 650cc inline 4s, and that's pretty flipping cool. I learned on those that they make a lovely noise, they rev to a high RPM, they're great fun to ride, chuckable bikes, and they're very, very affordable. Then you've got the Kawasaki with the Ninja ZX4RR. That's a new 400cc lightweight bike, and that's pretty cool. It's cool to see manufacturers still putting out the 4-cylinder bikes and complying with Euro 5. And then Suzuki, I said this when I was turning the camera off, I know I was sort of slagging Suzuki off as one of the ones that's like a big culprit for this homogenization, but they've still somehow managed to keep the SV650 going all this time later. That is not a parallel twin, so that's a V-twin. A bit like the Monster, a bit less power, and a little less exotic, but a very cool bike nonetheless. So yeah, there's still a few outliers out there, and for me, that's what getting a bike should be all about. It's about getting a bike that makes you smile, makes you happy, and if it makes you happy and you want a parallel twin, then go for it. Go get that bike, go enjoy it and ride it, and don't worry about what some random dude on the internet is saying about parallel twins and the homogenization of bikes. That's just my opinion. But for me, I like things that are a little bit different, a little bit quirky, a little bit loud, a little bit obnoxious, and that, for me, is where unique engine platforms come in. Triples, what a beautiful sound they make. V4s, V2s, they just make a different noise. They make your heart sing a little bit. So yeah, that's where I'm at. So, as I said at the top of this video, bikes are boring. I was lying. Bikes are not boring. Bikes are flipping fantastic. They're great fun. I just think we're going through a difficult patch at the minute where bikes are becoming victimized the same way petrol cars are. And these emissions laws and these stringent regulations and stuff that are coming into play are killing off what is, well, a hobby for many of us, something that we enjoy. It's not a constant mode of transport. We don't ride motorcycles because we have to. We ride motorcycles because we want to. So like I say, I think there's something to be said about the Euro 5 and that, and how bikes are becoming more and more a victim of this oppression that the European Union is putting on emissions. Anyway, I'm waffling. Have a good evening. That's my discussion. My opinion, sorry, not discussion. If you want to join the discussion though, feel free to comment below your thoughts on current modern bike situations, manufacturers, homogenizing brands. How do you feel about them? Are the bikes still exciting to you? Do you intend to buy a new bike, or are you quite happy razzing around like I am on something a little bit older? And if you've not already, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and go find me on Instagram. Subscribe over there as well, or follow me rather, and all that good stuff. And hopefully I get to see you in the next one. Goodbye.